Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the Dream Labs. Dr. Contrast here. Hope all is well with you all. I just thought I'd take a minute here today and go back and review some things and pick up the subject matter today. I think I'm going to go back to a subject matter I really enjoy doing, and that's getting into a lot of introduction of combat fighters and so forth. I just thought I'd take the day and kind of pull back a little bit the curtain and just slow down just a touch and start doing some little thumbnail sketches or pencil sketches just to kind of bring it back up to speed here and keep things fresh from the other side of life in terms of doing some really advanced vehicle concept work. The Star Citizen group, a very talented group of individuals, and I really respect what they're doing. I just thought I'd try and pull off a little bit of a stunt here today and get some really interesting asymmetrical looking interdiction or escort fighters. So that's the main thrust today, and they'll do I did a couple of sketches here ahead of time for us to look at and review, and then based on the input we have here on these little thumbnail sketches, I might just go ahead and just put together a little perspective sketch and put it into perspective and see what that might look like here. But just getting into some really what I refer to as almost like claw-like or kiloped type wing structures, where it's very asymmetrical. Typical small cartridge body, very small fighter in essence, and some wing structure, engine nacelles and so forth, and just some canards and so forth that are out there. A little bit of a different proportion that you see in an aircraft, for example, today, or a fighter system. And again, these are real quick little pencil sketches based on that concept of what does it look like, for example, what might it look like if you go to a really extreme abstract approach to wing structure and configuration for flight systems and the like. And again, I want to stress today that it's really conceptual. Nothing here is functional here. This is just a drawing exercise and a conceptual search to take a look at what's taking place out there, and which we'll actually have a lot of fun with, just in the basic drawing skills. So these are real fast little pencil sketches put together in elevation, just to kind of give me an idea of where I wanted to take this thing. Should be moving to some perspective with it. And then second sketch here we did, another layout was just something like this. We're going to go back in and get a little more abstract, just really kind of clean system, a very vertical wing system with a protruding appendage. There's the front view of this thing. It's just all really spherical. This thing would hang off on the left-hand side, or pardon me, the right-hand side, and then the wing structure being very vertical. And gesture here would be the name of the game here. So just looking at, again, very simple little theme sketches. Again, same process here. Different architecture, looking at wings and appendages and flying systems, for example, or air systems. That would really be kind of a little draw here to see what we could come up with in terms of some of the sketch work for this Escort fighter series. So those are the two themes I kind of work with here. So let's go back and see if we can put some of this stuff in perspective here and what it might look like in another view. So let's kind of start here with a nice little theme sketch. Let's get these guys up and out of the way, give myself some room to work with here. Come back in, just start putting together a nice little theme here. Let's just get the center line down, this basic perspective in here. I'm going to block it in first, where I want to go with this guy. Really kind of just nice and easy. Just starting nice and light. Keep it nice and simple. Go back in here, break it just a touch. Get the body width in place. Cockpit area. Kind of take that and break it just a touch here. Let's see what that does. Let's come back in here and just kind of stream that off just a little bit. Want this back. Just start to build the shapes as we go here. Very simple little sketches. Go back in there and get some of the wing structure in place, asymmetrical here. Let's kind of take this out and canard it. There you go, and there it is. Let's bring this across here. Same thing. Let's take this across. Come back in. Just roughing this thing in here. Just let me turn this around just a little bit here. Oops, pardon me. Put it on the line here. Really different proportion here. I just want to look at really interesting setup. This long spiker canard off the axle. So there's a basic gesture of what one of those guys might look like in terms of moving into perspective here. So it's a bit of a different format, but I think very interesting in terms of where do we take this and how does it begin to fashion in. So let's kind of go back in again and do the following here. Let's kind of get this guy a little bit of thickness to it. Let's get this in place. Run that across. Bring this back into the body form itself. Pull that through. Let's get this guy to come up. A little bit of a break here. Let's connect that portion. There we go. That's coming together. Let's get this guy out in line here. A little bit of a roll section in here. Bring the secondary form up here. Let's kind of get this into place. Just kind of building some really unique architecture. Kind of a spooky approach to perspective, but again, looking at this very, very unique, what I refer to as a very asymmetrical wing plant and so forth, and different canard systems. So let's kind of build this off here. Let's get a little bit of canard coming off of this cockpit area here and bring this thing trailer back. There we are there. Come back and put a little bit of reverse thrust or an intake piece in through underneath the carriage itself. Roll that in. There we go. Let's get this guy. Let's break this wing surface up just a bit now. It's going to kind of come across here. Get this guy to really come through here. Break that up again. Triangulate this. Just really lightly going in and developing some shape here. Let's kind of get this cockpit in place. Let's kind of roll this over. Just a nice little body form here. Round it out just a touch. Bring it in. Bring it back. A little bit of a different configuration. Let's get a bit of a cross brace in here. Let's put that in place. Draw through it. Get that to work. So there's a basic cockpit right there. Let's kind of come back. With that reverse, that little kick back in the wing structure itself. This comes back in and kicks. This comes out of here. Again, let's start breaking these shapes up just a bit more here. Nice and easy. Just to kind of give us some graphics here to work with. Oops, pardon me as I turn this around just a little bit. Let's get this nacelle, this intake piece put in place here. And see that starting to come together now? Very different format in terms of what the appearance, but hey, hi Bets, how you doing? Can you show us where your invisible horizon line is and where your points are going? Yeah, I'm going in perspective. I'm going like so here, Bets. My horizon line is going to be somewhere. Let me drop this down just a bit. Move it over just a touch for you. My horizon line is going to be about right up in this area here. Just some kind of right about up in that portion right there, where these drive lines come back to that vanishing point. And the other ones are going in the other direction, the same horizon line by vanishing point. And again, the perspective is kind of tilted. If I were to put this in box form, I'll show you in a moment here once we get going here. But it's a very, very high horizon line and a very overview here of the actual vehicle itself. So let's kind of does that help to answer your question there, Beth? Good to have you on board, by the way. How are you doing? Good. Good to see you. Thank you. Let's kind of structure in some pieces here. Gonna get this guy put together here. I'm gonna roll this in. Kick that back just a touch. I'm gonna start building a little bit more of the underbody here. Just kind of constructing the sketch here, Bets. And we're gonna kind of hard line it in as we go here. Add a little bit more nacelle to it here. Let's do this. Kind of a little double feature. Kick this back. Again, one more time here. Kick that back. Just slowly build it up. Just a simple little pencil sketch. Putting all the geometry together here. Doing great. Hey, super. So there we go. Let's kind of get this back in place here. Let's kind of break this surface up. Let's bring this into play. Let's let that come back. Roll this in. Get that back into place. Carry that together. Let's kind of break this shape up just a bit now. Let's come back and really begin to break this thing up. Let's roll that out. Let's roll that out now. Now we'll start putting some structure work in this thing. Let's get this nacelle. Let's highlight this thing. Again, very different proportion. There's a little bit of surprise here. Let's kind of run this canard through here. Let's step this out, bring this out. And this is a very large spoon, almost like a strafing device at the bottom of this guy. Like all of a sudden that changes the entire personality of that sketch. Hey, how you doing, Pixel? Good to see you, Doctor. Hope things are well. Yes, they are, and I hope they're well with you as well. Pixel, I know you're very busy, so thanks for joining us here. Looking at some Star Citizen interdiction systems, or Escort fighters. I have to go back to a favorite subject. I really love this stuff because it opens up your imagination and it begins to really free you up in terms of shape development and form and taking chances and getting some risky stuff here. So a little pencil sketch or a little theme study on what this vehicle might look like. So let me tighten it down just a bit here. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys are on board. And when I started, let me just do this. Let's stop there for a moment. This is where I started. A little bit earlier today, I just went through ahead and did some conceptual studies based on just some elevation pieces on what this asymmetrical flight system might look like. and just doing some really fast little A, B, C, and D studies on looking at proportion and shape, getting some really, the real strength of this thing is to get this long, almost like a kiloped or this wing system coming out the body form to work for us. So I started with those little thumbnail sketches and went to another set by doing these and just kind of tightened down a little bit more. Same basic theme, maybe a little more vertical wing system here, and again, that same appendage coming off the form itself. High cockpit, again, very streamlined, but again, a different bit of a look here to it. So once I did those 2 pages worth of little sketches, I thought, well, let's go back and see what something might look like in perspective. So that's the generation of this sketch here. I'm just starting it to build it. So I'm gonna come back in and tighten down just a bit here, guys. Pardon me as I move in here. Put this little side wall in place. Let's get this going here. Bring that back. Notice a bunch of the offsets here. Offsets are getting into a lot of flight dynamics of the skins and so forth and changing some of the character or the personality of the forms we're dealing with here. So we're getting some streaks in here. Roll that off, roll that off. Now a little bit of an intake study here. Let's kind of push this back. Let's push this one back. And get some character, some drafts in here just to kind of break that surface up just a touch. Now let's bring this back behind it, give them some body. Come back in through here and begin to connect the dots. So that comes off of that. Pardon me as I move this thing around just a touch. And this comes off and just breaks itself just enough there. So let me get some good, strong, hard lines in here, folks. We'll start ink this thing and pen it in here. There it is. There it is. Now, just gotta get this guy to really scream here. Got a couple little outriggers out here. Now let's break this up. Little sonar pad, radius into it. Break that up. There's a couple little sensing devices. Let's break this up. Let's break that up, and then just some neat shape into this thing. Just come right down that strike line here. Just break this form up here. So all of a sudden, look how that thing starts to come together in terms of just putting little pieces. Hey, Brad, how you doing? Sorry, Doc, I can't watch the stream. I'm kind of busy, and I'll be sure. No problem, Heath. Very good, Brad. Good to have you on board here. But again, look how the sketches come together in terms of getting a really interesting look at different dynamics and so forth, or the structure of the form itself. And that's basically the real theme of the thing here today. The stream is to get a little bit of a unique, almost like an advanced vehicle system out of this guy. Let's just do this and begin to look at different ways of breaking up concept shape. And this is just all flight dynamics. Nothing really functional. Let's kind of have some fun with this guy. Let's get back in there and say, all right, let's see what this streamer does here. Let's get that in place. Let's get this line in place here. Start to break this other side up just a touch. And slowly but surely begin to break it up. Put a more definition into this thing. Get this down here into that wing structure, up and over the top. That highlight to read. Let's kind of break this thing up here too. Pardon me as I move this down just a bit. Come back in and get some gill surfaces here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just conceptualizing what these guys might look like. You put them into perspective. Breaking it up. Being extremely lucid. Probably I move the paper around quite a bit here, folks. I just want to make sure we get some pretty good highlight stuff going on in here. Let that curl in underneath there. Let's get that little barrel system in place. And little by little, it's coming together here. Again, real quick, almost an empathic approach, just putting surfaces together. I just want to bring it out of the paper and see what we've got here as far as surfaces go. Let's step that out just a bit, get a little bit more relief. and break it into the sidewall here. Pardon me as I move around again. And in this lower piece, this little scope or radar dome. And a little bit of some trailing edge stuff here. Let's have this will be fun. Tighten this down just a bit more, part of the silencer, just kind of thinking my way through the matrix here. And a little recon piece up on top here. That gives you a little bit more, touch more security in terms of flight systems. Let's break this thing off here. Get this nose cap in place. Let's come off the front of this guy with a little bit more of like a gun system of some sort. Now let's put some real artillery in this guy now. Let's really get this thing, a big boom cannon come out for this beauty. Let's ink this in just a bit more. Let me stop right there. What do you think, gang? Making sense? Whatever you're doing. Let's see. All right, I've my thing on lurk here. Thanks, Pixel. All right, gang. Well, let me stop there just for a second. What do you think here, folks? Is this making sense for you here? Yeah, it's just a nice little different approach to maybe some vehicle attack here. Again, the whole concept here today is to go back and go by a little more mysterious looking things in terms of doing some aircraft development work and some interdiction fighter pieces. A little bit different from format here. Let me come back in and just put this up together here, and let's tighten down just a bit more. Just gonna put a little bit of tone in this thing now. With this air intake for the engine system. A little bit of cockpit study here. Oops, pardon me. Let's tone a little bit of value here. We can see where we are. There we go. Indication of the pilot. And again, let me stop right there. What do you think, gang? Quick little pencil sketch here. Hey, Chip, how you doing, Chip? Good to have you on board, Chief. Or is that a mechanical pencil? Having a hard time. Yeah, this is just strictly a little HB pencil sketch here, Pixel. Just doing little lead sketches and so forth, kind of changing tempo a little bit. Just good old-fashioned pencil work here. That's it. No wax paper here. Just some really good fast theme sketches here. So let's kind of move on here just a little bit. Put a bit of tone in this thing. And again, Chip, you're just joining us here. Did a series of little thumbnail sketches on just some interdiction systems or fighter escort systems to look at earlier on. And then we go back and review again here, guys. Started Chip with a series of sketches. Let's put them together here. A series of sketches, just an elevation form like so, just to see what might be happening in terms of doing some. What I was looking for is a different configuration. How do you get the glass? Well, it's you got to go back at it here, Bets, and go a little bit of dark, for example, where the horizon line is going to reflect the darkest darks. An overhead light, and leave that as is in cockpit format here, and put a little bit of a like reflective piece up on top of the system itself. So it's a little bit of a combination of a little bit of everything in terms of darkest darks, like the lightest lights. But again, the biggest thing is All the vertical systems, for example, the horizontal surfaces are going to stay in the light source and stay pretty light. And then down below, hey, Nemo, how are you? Doctor, good to see you. Hey, you're not late. Good to have you on board here. So this dark surface here, Bets, for example, is all the vertical sides are a lot darker because you're away from the light source. And up on top, you're getting a lot of direct light into the surface itself, so you leave it alone. It's a very simple little format here to work with here. So I hope that helps. Let me know if that answers your question, Bets, and I'll be more than happy to clarify it further if you need to. But for Nemo and everybody's benefit coming in, start with a series of thumbnail sketches. I want to go back to a favorite subject matter of mine. This whole idea of introduction fighters and Star Citizen stuff is really intriguing to me. And what I love about it is it opens up the door for some additional creativity, where you don't have to be so formal in terms of making sure that it's just perfectly correct. It's a lot of, hey, bathtub goat, hey, finally caught him. Hey, good to have you on board. Thank you so much for joining us. Getting into some Star Citizen stuff here, just looking at some conceptual asymmetrical flight systems. For example, we're doing all this very interesting thing, stuff in terms of maybe doing lesson plans on line weights and so forth. So I just kind of pull back with just some very basic pencil sketches to let us see how this whole thing unfolds. And again, went through a series of sketches today. Just doing some elevation and concept sketches on this, what I refer to as this very strong, bold, kiloped-like wing system to kind of get to see what it might look like with a very small cockpit area. And again, asymmetrical in format with a lot of weight, for example, and on the wing surface itself. And little thumbnail sketches like this to kind of get things an idea where the proportions are going to go. And from that sketch, I went on to this one, where I kind of slowed down a bit more, went more of a vertical radical piece. And the same basic concept here to get this idea to come together, but looked at it, once we got those two down, I thought, it'd be kind of neat to see what this might look like if we put it into perspective. So from these sketches, for example, these two plates right here, from those two studies, we started to move into a little perspective sketch here, which I'm working on now. So I'm just trying to put a little bit of value in it. I'm not going to go much further than this. I just want to get the theme down and to see if the presence is working here with the actual sketch itself. Engine nacelle back here. Let me just tone this back just a bit here, okay? So we kind of separate one from the other. This is like a little cantilevered engine off of this intake piece here. Going to pull this back, and just slowly but surely give this thing some life. Not interested in a lot of detail yet. I'll add that too as we go. This cut back into the body form itself. Very simple, very almost rectangular cockpit nacelle up in front here. Then in these very asymmetrical gun system, firing system. This might be a strafing device of some sort. This spoon down below. So it's really interesting. Bathtub goat, hey, very cool. So it's good to have you on board. Thank you so much for joining us here. So that kind of falls in line with maybe one approach to looking at how we put these sketches together. And again, it's very conceptual in nature, which I think is a lot of fun, because again, what I was going to say here was about these studies. What I think is interesting about them is this. You go through a certain lexicon of, you do typical product work or architectural work or interior space and so forth, and you have a pattern down. When you move into this stuff, there's something about this that just opens up the floodgates of what if. So there's not really an awful lot of what I would say is manufactured mechanical look to it. There's an awful lot of really interesting, what if I tried this? What if I go asymmetrical? What if I go really radical with this thing? What happens if it changed pace with this thing? All these things begin to really tell a story. So let's kind of go back here for just a second and look at some things. Let me get a fresh sheet of paper here. And we'll kind of open the door up a little bit. What if I took the same approach? I'll come back to that in a moment here. We take that same approach and we come back in and say, all right, what if we just begin to pick up, for example, the following. Let's kind of build a frame here. There's a basic frame. I'm just going to start right there, almost back to what we did almost in square one. No limitations in physics. Yeah, that's right. No, no, you've got that right. Well, let's just kind of play this game here of what happens. Draw through it. Really empathic sketches here. Come back through here. And I just build this shape. There it is, two wing forms. I'm going to start right there with two hydrofoils. There's A, and there's B. So I'm using the crossover pattern to pick up my points of reference here. I'm going to come back in and begin to separate this thing. Let's say I don't want that look. I'm going to draw that through. I'm going to come back and reverse this. Bring this back. Let's see if I bring that downhill. So there I am. I start there. Let's come back into the center. Let's kind of bring this back into play here. Let's do this. And let's find off center line. It's there. It comes off that point there, so it comes right back to here. Notice how I'm using the perspective to build this surface. I'm just going to slowly but surely build this surface. So far, so good, gang? All right, let me move along here. There's a foil there. Now I'm going to change this. I'm back into this. Draw that through. And I'm going to end up with that. Off of that, I'm going to come up with this. Which is now going to give me this. Which I'm going to loft. I'm going to get that. I'm going to use this as a probe. I'm going to come off with this. And there you go. Quick little study. That's how it all begins to work. Okay, so how we did that? I mean, again, Beth, if you're still there, again, it's using that perspective process we're dealing with in terms of, again, I'm curious to see what you would do with hinge sections or moving parts or something in this conceptual. Well, if you go that route, let me see if I can answer your question here. What shall we do with hinge? For example, in this sketch, is that a bathtub? Again, just hold on here for a second. I'm just going to slow down. We can see what we can work with here. A bit more tone in this thing here to kind of give it some distinction. Pardon me for being so scratchy here, guys. It's a real quick series of concept sketches. And there it is. Let's see, Beth, and just snap like that. That snap. There you go. There it is. I'm going to take a moment here. Beth, are you still there? If you're still in, let me know, Beth, because I want to make sure I get that whole idea of like glass and so forth orchestrated for you here. Let me just kind of tighten this down a bit. Again, the stream today was to go back into the histrionics of this stuff and begin to develop some very interesting little concept sketches based on Star Citizen concept, just for lack of a better term, escort fighters. I mean, it's something, again, to me, it's intriguing because you can open up the floodgates and just have so much fun with this stuff. And begin to imagineer certain things. And I think the real value of this as well, for those of you watching, if you go through this process of being extremely lucid with what you do, I'd imagine that hinge sections are difficult to display in a 2D drawing unless you show some. Yeah, you can. That's what I was going to get at here. Exactly. For example, you could take this piece here. Let's do this. You could take this element right here and focus in on the, let's say there's a pivot point right here. And under flight conditions, that thing might swing over and do the following. And it gets to that station. And you begin to, maybe it rotates over even more. So you take that whole pivot point and you rotate it out until you get to the point where it does this, where it goes almost, it goes horizontal. Now you've got almost like a flat wing system. So that's one way to show that. Is that what you're getting at, bathtub or goat? You know, does that help? So that's what I was getting at here in terms of, now you rotate that. Now you can draw through it, for example, but the key to it is, here's my center line of pivot right here. So that's my center line of pivot. When I come out of that, I take that same shape and rotate it over. I pivot it over. And I pivot it over. And I pivot it over. And what I'm ending up with here is that piece. Now to show what that does, now I might go to the negative. It could go here, go underneath, again underneath, and so on. There's that whole rotation system coming into play here. There you go. And it just moves it on. Now, to show that that does that, you take that normal process and say this. It goes that way. And also rotates that way. And that's how you would show what that rotation system does in that wing surface. You could also do the same thing with this. You can actually say my center line of pivot for this guy is right here. That's my center line of pivot. Now to move that downhill, there it is. Maybe then under certain flight conditions, that thing comes down and drops and does the following. And again, it can drop again and get lower and much lower. So that can just kind of start to overlap as you go. You start to move this thing around. You get a very, very interesting form of getting the shapes to read and how they begin to articulate. Does that make sense? Got it. There she is. Betsy, if you're still there, I'm just going to do something here real quickly. Your question earlier about glass. For example, let's do this. Isolate like a canopy system here. Got to break this down. I were to do a cockpit area, for example, like this. Let's do this. I'm going to crown in it. And let's say this is my canopy system here. I'm going to draw through that in perspective. My drive line, my drive line, my drive line. I'm going to come through here and pick this line up until it hits that one, and rotate that over. And then there I am. That gives me that secondary point right there to kind of bring it right back into play. So now let's put a little bit of structure into this thing. I've got a structural piece that looks like this. That holds it all together. So there's the basic drawing. Draw across, there's my cross section right there. There's my member that kind of holds this form together right there. Now, that's basic geometry. All set there, vets, good. Now, when I put light on this thing, let's say that light source is going to be from up here. Upper left-hand side coming in. Everything in the upper surface, I'm going to leave alone. I'm going to come right back down the center line. It's got a bit of a split to it. I'll do this. Also, some light source, I'll leave that alone. As it moves away from the light source, I'll tone it very lightly into the structure. And just tone it. Now, highlight tells me where the light source is coming from my left. In that area here, I'll put a reflective piece. Something in the environment, for example, that might be reflecting back into the cockpit. So there it is. I'll take that a step further and bring it right back into the forward portion of the glass. And begin to build some reflectivity. Tone through it. There's a material change. And again, carry that on through. Highlight again. Again, where it turns the corner. Now I'm going to use my environment now to come back in. Everything up on top, every top surface is going to see reflected light. That's very direct. This is a reflected piece. It gives me the canopy definition, for example, up on top. So now that I've turned to the side, now the environment out here is going to reflect back into the body side. I'm going to take, let's say, like a hypothetical horizon line and break that into it. If I come back in first and tone it, because it's away from the light source. Notice, it's now vertical. Light source up on top, direct light. Away from the light source, now it's reflected or inverted light. So let's do this. Tone it in. Away from the light source first. Let's get a pattern down. See what I did there? I left a little bit of that trail right there. That is a section where the spar comes in and meets the actual glass itself. Let's do this. There's basic tone. Now, let's put a horizon line in place. This could be a mountain range off to my extreme left, and I'm reflecting back into the glass as an abstraction. A little bit of shadow here on the spar of the actual structural piece. There we go. Let that horizon line come back in again. Take it right through the body form. Hope this is helping, Bets. Let me stop right there. Making sense? There she be. Cool. Sweet. The close-up of the cockpit helps. All right, here we go. Now, the last thing I want to do to make this thing become more believable is this. Now the coup de grace is put the pilot in place. Now draw through it. Now put the canopy in place. The IP. Instrumentation module. Canopy release. And there it is. What do you think, kiddo? And there she be, helping gain. Again, that whole light source phenomenon comes into play when I pick a light source high overhead and coming right down in here and really doing a nice job keeping all the horizontal surfaces in the light source. All the vertical surfaces, for example, now I'm away from the light source, I'm going to reflect the environment back into it, which gives me this dark to light against the sequence here. That's the basic premise right there, Bets. So let's go back to this just for a second here. Let's see if I can kind of get this. Yeah, I think I've got enough paper here. I think, oh, let's do this. One last little call here before we get at it. Let's go back in and do the following here. Returns. Might be running out of paper, I'm not sure. I am. Wow, can't believe it. Let me switch gears here and find another sheet of paper here, gang. Sorry about that. I'm just going to get a stack of paper here and we'll kind of work with it just a bit. Let's go back and show you again how this whole thing begins to start. Let's see, there and there. Got those guys out of the way. Put this out of the way for the time being. Pardonnez-moi. Just for a second, let's go back and review here. And I'll go back and finish this something up here. This is where we started, for example. Just took us a little bit of a theme sketch here today and moved into, for example, some little thumbnail sketches just to kind of give us a start here. Where we're at, this is what happened. A little bit of some elevation studies. I was really looking for a Star Citizen asymmetrical kind of escort or interdiction fighter. Something a little bit different, a little bit more unique. Again, with this kilo pad, with this very strong wing structure, this very asymmetrical wing look, and then very slim, small body form. And then doing elevation sketches, really, let me put these up on top here, really quick sketches. I mean, there's not a lot of time invested in these guys at all, but just looking for a theme and putting a spirit down, so to speak, to get it established. So I started there, and I moved from that sketch into this family of studies here, which all of a sudden began to help a little bit. Same basic theme, very simple body form, very strong, huge, powerful, asymmetrical wing structure. And again, going vertical tail, body form in the center, and again, that same wing structure coming out, for example, on this case, on the right-hand side of the vehicle. And then from those two, I thought, oh, what would it look like in perspective? So we started with this sketch. Pardon me as I turn the corner here. Start with that little thumbnail sketch there to kind of put it all together. What it might look like in asymmetry. Wow, the pilot that really shows the transparency. It really, that helps to kind of put it all together here. This is just a real fast pencil theme sketch on what this vehicle might look like when you move it into perspective. So that's what that starts to look like. So the genealogy, what I like to do is go through a series of thinking sketches first. For example, these little rough 8.5 by 11s are invaluable. You know, you kind of go through some things, you kind of crank at them a little bit, and you can convert that. What does it look like, for example, that you move into perspective? Now notice, all the sketches I did, this vehicle does not look like what I'm after here. But the key thing is, in going through these sketches, what began to happen was kind of motivate you to think in terms of stretch the envelope a little further, stretch it a little further, take some chances. So these little theme sketches or lucid studies began to open things up. What if I went this route? Totally different body form, but the inspiration here helped me to get there. That was a cool part about this process. So let me close with this, just to show you how the gesture starts in an elevation. I always like to start with just basic geometry. So we come back in and say, all right, let's do this. Let's kind of push it out of here. Let's get that, just a simple form. Now let's break it up. And build off of that shape. By the way, look how monstrous that begins to look like. It's kind of goofy, right? So when it's all said and done, but you come back in and start to modify this guy. All right, let's do this. Let's take this and sharpen it up. Let's really cantilever that whole canopy. Let's kind of take this into play. There's my cockpit right there. But based on that cockpit size, what you'll start to see is the overall size or scale. Let's put a little bit of a sidewall in this thing so the product can see. That gives you some idea of the scale of this thing. Massive, which is what I'm after. Something really uniquely different. Now let's come back and now notice off of this. Let's build some engine nacelles. This is now engine. Comes off of this, drops back off of that, and grows off of this. This is all engine nacelle now. Let's separate that just a bit. Let's split this thing. So you know now that it begins to move around just a bit. Now you got a split here. split here. Let's kind of put triangling. Let's kind of break this surface up now. Pardon me as I move around just a bit. Engine intake, a little bit of shadow. A little bit of composition in this thing. It's just kind of hovering over a planet of some sort, or a body out there in the deep chasms of space. And there's a little thumbnail sketch when it's all come together. Unbelievable. There we go, gang. Clearly bird of prey, right? Yeah, it's just a nice little bird of prey, kind of an aggressive looking wing structure. Very, very much cantilevered, I'm sure. But again, that was the whole point today, was to get into this thing about getting away from the paradigm of being so normal and being, you know, for lack of a better term, very cautious or traditional. There's something about stretching. I mean, I'll go back again. Let me repeat myself here. Pardon me, folks. Just got to get this out of the way here. Sorry, I ran out of paper, but I ran out of paper. It's a good thing, so it's working. Again, it starts with an idea. That's where you move to. And this is how I think. I mean, sometimes when I get into especially subject matter such as this, I just really begin to look at, all right, what's neat about what do I want to accomplish? What am I looking for? What's the theme? What's the benchmark I'm going to build on here? And in this case, the benchmark was getting to a very, very bold kiloped-like fighter interdiction system for Star Citizen, an asymmetrical wing structure, very quick and nimble-looking aircraft, but not really worried about restrictions or mechanical systems, just a character or a flavor. So I started there and went from that sketch into another study here. A couple of little themes here to kind of slow down a little bit. Some introduction, gun systems. Again, same flight engine system. Very simple monocoque approach here up on top. Then came back in below with a much more of a vertical approach to the actual body form itself. And again, much more sedate, straightforward wing structure. So that was it. And then we just ended up with this little thinking process by going really very exaggerated. There's a lot of complications here. I wouldn't really want to build this thing, but I was trying to telegraph to each one of you how the thought process starts. You start a line, you build on that, you build on a line. It goes back to what we're saying, some of the other earlier lessons too, that great sketches are built. It's line upon line, precept upon precept. And you take chances. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And again, but the sum total is, and I think one of the things, the real joy of this approach in doing fighter systems or conceptual design aircraft work is this. You begin to take chances and it stretches the envelope a little bit and you see some more imagination come about. And when that takes place, you take that same, what you've learned from that into product design. Like I use this stuff in automobile design, architecture, interior space. I'll pull from it and really come back in and use that as a creative tool to work with my clients. So it's really kind of a lot of fun. So then from that, we went from there into this final little sketch. What does it look like in perspective? And that's what we ended up with, this very asymmetrical, as Nemo pointed out, like a bird of prey. It has a real aggressive stance to it. And hopefully that worked out well for you, gang. So anybody, any questions in closing here? I've gone for about maybe an hour or so. I hope I've bored you to death. But I sure hope this has been of some help to you as much as it has been to me. I might just carry this on tomorrow for a little bit more. That's really enjoyable stuff. Anybody, any questions, please? How about you, Bets? Looking good? Oh, got to run. Hey, thanks for joining us, Bets. Good to have you on board today. And again, to all of you who have joined in today, especially Goat, thank you so much. Pixel, always good to have you on board. Hope you're doing really well, and thank you so much for the time spent. Nemo, good stuff, man. I really compliment you for the work you're doing. Keep up the great work. It's fun to see you begin to stretch the envelope and take some chances and doing some really good work. So standing ovations to you, Nemo. Let me do this in closing, please. If you take a moment and visit my website at drcontrast.com. We've got a cool store going on there now with the product work, like some Ferrari work and some illustration stuff I've done. Porsche 917, or no, probably not 917, 919. Hey, hi Doug, how are you? Good to have you on board. Did a little study today on Star Citizen Escort fighter. So sorry it's coming in late, but I'll if you want to take a moment to look at it on YouTube, I'll be posting it in just a few minutes here. So thanks so much, gang. Please take a look at my website, drcontrast.com. Any questions, please feel free to drop me a line at my email address at jim@drcontrast.com. And last but not least, hope you enjoy the lesson format I've got on there. I'll be working here hopefully by the end of the month or pretty soon. I'm going to go back into the studio and refilm a second series, maybe done some transportation stuff to add to the website itself. So thank you so much, gang. Hope you have a great day. Please go to the website, check out the store. Some prints are in there, for example. We're putting a new book in place, so we'll keep that posted on that. And last but not least, I'll always sign off because I think it's extremely important. Just really interesting. For example, if you know of anybody who's interested in this, I'd really like to join and add to my stream system here, a membership. So please pass the word along to join us. I'd love to keep my numbers going up. They've been very kind to me thus far. I'm almost approaching 100 people, which I think is an absolute blessing. Don't deserve it, but boy, it's been a lot of fun to watch it grow. And you've been a big part of that. So thank you very much, gang. So noise of the broad that I'm available here on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Tuesdays 1:30 to 2:30, Wednesdays 4 to 5, and then Thursday 1:30 to 2:30. So once again, thanks so much, gang. And I will sign off with this because I think it's the most important thing to state throughout the entire hour. And it's simply this: never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. Thanks very much, gang. Have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 1:30. All the best. Bye-bye.